By now you should have a pretty good feel for how Contribute can be used to access, edit, and publish web pages. So over the next several chapters, we're going to focus more closely on how to use Contribute to work with the actual content of the pages. We'll look at how to work with images, links, tables, and even how to work with multimedia files. But in this chapter, we're going to start with the basic yet very important topic of working with text. For the most part, if you've ever used a word processing program, you'll find that working with text in Contribute is pretty much the same. But keep in mind, though, that a web page isn't a word processing program. When you're working in a word processing document, it's usually with the intention of printing the document onto a specific size of paper. But with a web page, you never know how large or small your visitors' computer monitors are going to be or what resolution they'll be set to. So you'll find that in many circumstances, your web pages will look a little bit different from computer to computer. Now, there are ways to control your page layouts for more consistent results by using tables and cascading style sheets, but you generally won't be doing anything too fancy with Contribute. If you have to design a complex page from scratch, you're better off using a full-fledged web design program like Dreamweaver, or at least using the starter pages that come built into Contribute. But it's still a good idea to know how to use Contribute to work with all the elements that might appear on a web page, including text. So let's take a look at some basic examples. For the most part, Contribute respects the common conventions of working with a word processing document. You can navigate around the document by using the arrow keys on your keyboard. You can click anywhere within the body of your text to place your cursor at that location. And you can click and drag to select text. As you type, the text will wrap from one line to the next, but unlike a word processing document where text wraps based on the edges of the page you're going to be printing to, in Contribute the text wraps based on the size of your window. So if I resize my window here, notice how the text rewraps itself. This can be an issue when it comes to laying out your page because, like I said, you never know what size your visitors' browser windows are going to be. But you'll learn how you can control text flow using tables in the chapter on working with tables. Now, you can also cut and paste text from other applications into Contribute and vice versa, or just from within Contribute to itself. For example, on this page here, I'm missing one type of T that's listed on the actual T-Cloud site. So I'll browse to that page in my browser, which I have displayed here, and that's oolong T. So I'm just going to select all of that text, like so. And we can hit Command-C or Control-C on the keyboard to copy the text, or we can choose Edit Copy. Or we can right-click on the text and choose Copy. Lots of options there. And then we go back to our document. And I'm just going to add an insertion point there by pressing Return. And I'll choose Edit, Paste to add that text. So copying and pasting works like it does in pretty much any other word processing program. Now, if the text you're copying is formatted in a way that you don't want, for instance, sometimes you might receive text that's been italicized or set in bold, you do have an option called Paste Text Only, which will remove all the formatting and paste just the plain text, so you can then play with the formatting yourself without having to remove it manually first. And of course, if you want to type your own text, you simply place your cursor where you want the text to appear, and you start typing. Like so. Now, one thing that's important to mention is that when you press Return or Enter on your keyboard to go to the next line, you typically get a blank line of space between lines of text. So I just finished typing copyright 2007 tcloud.com. I hit Return on my keyboard, and you'll notice that there's this line of space there. So if I type another line here, you can see that we have this blank area here. This is common behavior for a web editing program, and this is how text will behave and Contribute unless your site administrator has set up the site to not place that line of text between paragraphs. Incidentally, this is called a paragraph break, and it's generally a good thing because it creates some nice white space between your paragraphs. All of these different T's here have paragraph breaks between them, and that generally makes text easier to read. If all the text here were just tightly together, it would be much harder on the eyes to read a long page of text like this. But if you want to eliminate that paragraph break between certain lines of text, you need to insert what's called a line break, which you can do by holding down the Shift key while you press Enter or Return. So you can see how my cursor is now flashing immediately under that preceding line. So when I type now, so you can see that's what a line break looks like. Instead of having that blank line like we have in a paragraph break, by holding Shift and pressing Enter, I get that line break. Now, there are some other quirky things to keep in mind about working with text, but we'll address those issues as they come up. For the most part, though, I think you'd agree that if you know how to work with text in a word processor, working with text in Contribute isn't all that different. In the next movie, we'll take a look at formatting text in Contribute.